Module 6, Early Civilizations of the Fertile Crescent and the Nile Valley. Essential question. How did the geography of the Fertile Crescent and the Nile Valley lead to the development of advanced civilizations? Lesson 1. Geography and River Valley Civilizations. The valleys of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers were the site of the world's first civilizations. Rivers support the growth of civilization. Main idea. The rivers of Southwest Asia supported the growth of civilization. Early peoples settled where crops would grow. Crops usually grew well near rivers, where water was available and regular floods made the soil rich. One region in Southwest Asia was especially well suited for farming. It lay between two rivers. The land between the rivers. The most important physical features of the region, sometimes known as Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia means between the rivers in Greek. As you can see on the map, the region called Mesopotamia lies between Asia Minor and the Persian Gulf. The region is part of the Fertile Crescent, a large arc of rich or fertile farmland. As you can see on the map, the Fertile Crescent extends from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. In ancient times, Mesopotamia was made of two parts. Northern Mesopotamia was a plateau bordered on the north and east by mountains. The southern part of Mesopotamia was a flat plain. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers flowed down from the hills into this low-lying plain. The rise of civilization. Hunter-gatherer groups first settled in Mesopotamia more than 12,000 years ago. Over time, these people found that they could plant seeds to grow food. They began forming semi-sedentary settlements. This meant they would settle in one area for part of the year to grow food. The rest of the year, they would hunt and gather in other areas. People eventually became better at growing food. They created tools to help them farm, such as sickles made from flint or clay to harvest crops. Being able to produce food greatly changed how people lived. After a while, people no longer needed to migrate in search of food. They began building permanent settlements so they could raise their crops. This change was so great that historians call the shift from migrating to find food to building settlements to produce food the Neolithic Revolution. The first farm settlements were formed in Mesopotamia as early as 7000 BC. Every year, floods on the Tigris and Euphrates rivers brought silt, a mixture of rich soil and tiny rocks, to the land. The fertile silt made the land ideal for farming. Farmers grew wheat, barley, and other types of grain. Livestock, birds, and fish were also good sources of food. Plentiful food led to population growth, and villages formed. Eventually, these early villages developed into the world's first civilization. A civilization is an organized society within a specific area. Civilizations often include large cities in which different social classes of people live. Writing, formal education, art, and architecture are features of civilizations. In civilizations, governments are made up of leaders or family groups. The governments make decisions that help the civilization develop. These characteristics improve people's quality of life. In an established civilization, a government makes economic decisions to help society develop. For example, as populations grow, decisions have to be made about how to effectively produce and distribute food. Farming and cities. Main idea. New farming techniques led to the growth of cities. Although Mesopotamia had fertile soil, farming wasn't easy there. The region received little rain. This meant that water levels in the Tigris and Euphrates rivers depended on rainfall in eastern Asia Minor, where the two rivers began. When a great amount of rain fell, water levels got very high. This flooding destroyed crops, killed livestock, and washed away homes. When water levels were too low, crops dried up. Farmers knew that they needed to develop a way to control the river's flow. Controlling water. To solve their problems, Mesopotamians used irrigation, a way of supplying water to an area of land. To irrigate their land, they dug out large storage basins to catch rainwater that fell to the north. Then they dug canals, human-made waterways that connected these basins to a network of ditches. These ditches brought water to the fields. To protect their fields from flooding, farmers built up the river's banks. These built-up banks held back floodwaters even when the river levels were high. Food surpluses. Irrigation increased the amount of food farmers were able to grow. In fact, farmers could produce a food surplus, or more than they needed. Farmers also used irrigation to water grazing areas for cattle and sheep. As a result, Mesopotamians ate a variety of foods. Fish, meat, wheat, barley, and dates were plentiful. Because irrigation made farmers more productive, fewer people needed to farm. Some people became free to do other jobs. As a result, new occupations developed. For the first time, people became crafters, religious leaders, and government workers. The type of arrangement in which each worker specializes in a particular task or job is called a division of labor. Having people available to work on different jobs meant that society could do more. Large projects, such as raising buildings and digging irrigation systems, required specialized workers, managers, and organization. To complete these types of projects, Mesopotamian society needed to establish order. To do this, the Mesopotamians created structure and rules. These could be provided by laws and government. Appearance of cities. Over time, settlements grew both in size and complexity. They gradually developed into cities between 4000 and 3000 BC. Despite the growth of cities, society in Mesopotamia was still based on agriculture. Most people still worked in farming jobs. However, cities were becoming important places. People traded goods there, and cities provided leaders with power bases. Cities were the political, religious, and economic centers of civilization. Summary and preview. Mesopotamia's rich, fertile lands supported productive farming, which led to the development of cities. In the next lesson, you will learn about some of the first city builders.